Where are people in your organization now? My last question before you look. See this arrow? I want you to think about where the people you support are on this arrow. Service life means that people are healthy and safe, but we're not paying attention to what matters to them in an organized way. When we say people, that important four is taken into account, we're talking about health, safety, and being a valued member of your community. And that has been the minimum standard. That's been the standard that government for years, decades, held people to. But how many of you know somebody who's alive and miserable? So health and safety is not the only thing. There's also what matters to the person, what we call what's important too. Things like fulfilled, comforted, satisfied, having status and control, having the relationships that I want. All of those things are important too. Unless you as an organization are paying attention to important too as part of how you do your work, whether it's present or not is luck. How many of you have worked with somebody that you love? How many of you have worked with somebody that you love? When you have been working with somebody that you love, what matters to that person will be largely present because of your love. How many of you, I want to ask you to hold your hands up, but how many of you have gotten people what mattered to them even though it was against the rules? Quite a few people are smiling and nodding. I am asking you not to hold your hands up because you're being videoed. But if I love the person, I'm going to do what it takes. How many of you have worked with somebody who rubbed your fur the wrong way? If you've done this work for a while, you have found someone who rubbed your fur the wrong way. And it's not good staff, bad staff, it's good match, bad match, which we'll talk about later. But if you're working with somebody who rubbed your fur the wrong way and you need to go the extra mile for that person, you need to bend the rule for that person, you're going to do it. Not unless you're getting the Mother Teresa award. Ordinary humans aren't going to do that. So unless the agency is looking at what does a good life look like for you, where there's a balance between important 2 and important 4, you're going to be stuck at service life. Bouncing up and down some, depending on your life. And that should be the minimum standard. Because we know how to deliver supports and services to people where what's important 2, what's important 4 is pretty much in balance. But if you read what's underneath there, it says, but the people who are in your life are paid, family, other people who use services. And if you really look at how we should be defining community life, it's not just presence. It's not the fact that somebody is physically present. Have you ever been to, I saw somebody with a bag at the hotel that said Walmart, so there must be a Walmart close by. You cannot escape Walmart. Have you ever been at Walmart and seen a group of people who use services coming through? It looks like Mother Duck and the little ducklings, because one person's in the lead and there's a whole string of people behind. There are no community connections, there are only presence when people are traveling in packs. So we've been successful in having presence, but not connection. And it's connections, it's reciprocal relationships that really define community. It's the presence of people who appreciate me and to who I contribute. Reciprocal relationships. So think about the people that you work with. Where are they? If you were to draw a curve, if you were to say, let's think about each person that we work with. And let's think about that arrow and the 3 places on it. And then let's say, how many people are where? What would the curve look like? What would that distribution curve look like? And I'd like you to talk about it at your table. And I want you to talk about it from the standpoint of, where's the fat part? And how many people are here, and how many people are here? What percent? So talk about it at your table. I assume most of you are sitting with people that you work with. Did you arrive at some consensus about the distribution? Sort of, kind of? So for respite and some kind of one-off services, then what you really don't know is what's life at home. And people will say, well, everybody who's living at home is in community life. Would that it were true. Because are the relationships, remember community life being defined by relationships, are the relationships that are present your parents' relationships or your relationships? And the way you find out is when your parents aren't there. And in most instances, we discover they were your parents' relationships. So we're still even there, have work to do. So a couple things I'd like you to think about doing. If you were to take this arrow and just turn it into a graph, just an x-axis and a y-axis. And then you went to the store, the office supply store, and got those little peel-off dots. Put people's initials on the dots. And you would find in many instances you need to do this for several occasions. These people who are running day services, you have people who only come to you during the day. People who are running residential, you typically have maybe only the residential side, maybe the day. So you have to decide how you're going to chunk it out. But take those dots, put somebody's initials on them, and where do they go on that? And then start stacking the dots, and you'll get what's called a histogram. And if you were to take that histogram and plot it, you would get the curve. And what I would argue, one of the ways for you to track progress is if the curve looks like this year, can we do something so that the curve looks like this next year? Can we get the fat part of the curve to move? Can we cut off the tail? It's a way to think about the progress we want to make, because we do it one person at a time, and we should. But we need to look at it across all the people we support. And think about how it works. Now, there's some variation in this. I do a lot of work with people who have significant behavioral health issues. And so you might have somebody who is pretty much in community life and then has a psychotic break, or has a bipolar disorder and has an episode, and they suddenly need to be in service life because they need to be somewhere where safety is assured. They need to be somewhere where the structure is in place to make sure that they don't hurt themselves or others. But that's a temporary place. How quickly can you get them back to community life? How quickly can you at least get them out of service life? And people who have really significant behavioral health issues, can we define what a good paid life would look like and at least help them get there as they engage in recovery? Now, some of you may also be working with people who are older, elders, and looking at in-home support. So there, you're starting out with people who begin at community life, and your goal is to see how long you can help them maintain community life. And can you help them escape service life for their entire life? Can you even make end of life for that person be something where they don't get trapped in service life? When you're making a decision about an intervention for someone, what impact will it have on where they are on that arrow? Because quite often we'll come up with, oh, you have these challenging behaviors, we're going to remove you from here and put you there. Well, are we actually putting the person in service life? Are we moving them backwards on the arrow? If we are, we better have a really good justification. And say there is no alternative that we can come up with, because in most instances we can come up with another way to do it. So, things to think about. And let me just wrap this up by saying, I routinely have people go, well, let me tell you where I work. Let me tell you about the challenges that we have. And it means that different people are starting in different places. Some people are struggling to, how do we go from service life to good paid life? Some people are going, we are at good paid life, how do we get to community life? People are in different places with the struggle. Every place you're at is perfectly valid, and that's why I'm going, part of what you want to do is say, here's where we are now. What are the things that we could do that would push that curve forward? And if you're starting at service life, what would it take for us to move towards good paid life? What are the changes that we need to have happen? What do we need to make different?